few days.
Hello.
Collab stuff like that. That's cool. Cool. Cool.
Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
Cool.
Hello.
Cool.
into that pool of water to be able to try and control the reaction to some degree. Now, here's what happens in this situation to where a reactor starts to run out of water. If the reactor starts to run out of water where some of the fuel rods or parts of the fuel rods are now exposed to the open air, the reaction actually starts to run out of control at that point, especially if we start to see that it starts to create a flashover, which is where a large amount of the water, due to the excessive amount of fission happening in the small amount of water, starts to create huge voids of steam. That actually accelerates the reaction, a lot like what y'all would know of, say, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster or the Fukushima Daiichi disaster, and then that creates a nuclear meltdown, which is a physical explosion of the reactor where most of the fuel rods actually melt into a solid goop at the bottom of the reactor, and that becomes a highly radioactive soup at the bottom of that reactor or in a reactor basement if it starts to melt through the shielding around the reactor that will survive for hundreds of years, emitting humongous amounts of radiation. This is why striking anything around an active nuclear power plant like the Bushehr plant is a horrendous idea. We've seen the Russians do similar in the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine, and it's a wildly dangerous concept. If something goes wrong here, the damage could be significant, especially with the Bushehr nuclear power plant and its geography. If this power plant had a meltdown and it had a complete reactor rupture, where this radiation is able to be released into the open air, a lot of that is going to deposit itself as fallout into the area of the Persian Gulf. A lot of these Middle Eastern countries use desalination plants, which take in water from the Persian Gulf to produce fresh drinking water for their populations. If the Persian Gulf is irradiated to any decent degree, they will not be able to use that water for drinkable water to be processed into desalination plants, meaning that millions of people along the entirety of the Persian Gulf's coast, including Iran and the rest of the region, will no longer have usable drinking water. That's not a great situation. That's why we generally need to see that whoever conducted an attack like that, Israel, needs to stop this kind of stuff because it's wildly dangerous and it could lead to unpredictable outcomes that would be generally catastrophic, not only for us, but for everybody in the region. Now, a lot of people are wondering what's up with this thing. And Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
Okay, so I will admit we were actually wrong yesterday. Generally speaking, I can't remember what Andrew said about it or the enforcer, but I generally said yesterday that it seemed like Iran could be lying about the situation, but it turns out the boy that cried wolf, which is Iran at this point, was actually telling the truth on this one for the most part, which is kind of shocking considering how much they lie. But we did see the satellite image showing a confirmed hit in very close proximity to Iran's nuclear facility. And what are your thoughts? 59% said the U.S. and Israel sent a warning shot, while 13% said it seems accidental and not intentional, and 11% said Iran probably staged this. So I don't think Iran staged it, by the way. This is something here that's so extreme. I don't even think Iran would do it. So I don't know. Like, this seems like it's intentional to me. Like, I'm kind of going off a gut feeling on this. I will admit it's kind of my speculation. So I can understand if you disagree with it. But to me, it seems like a warning shot. Though the location in which that missile or whatever projectile that was hit was in an area that generally posed no risk to the actual facility itself. But it sent the message, though, that it's a possible target. And that's the message that it sent. So another fact that we have to weigh in is Bushehr is a dual project between the Iranians and the Russians. That's another fact as well. We are apparently, have the Russians been evacuated from this facility? I want to ask that question first.
We never saw the the Ministry of Emergency Situations conduct an evacuation, so we're not really sure how they got out, if they did, and we're not really sure if they're there or not.
Okay, so that was my impression as well. We do not believe that the Russians have been evacuated from this facility. So, according to what we know, based on the most recent information, the Russians are still here at this location. So that's concerning as well, that there are Russian nuclear scientists working there as well. So, you know, to me, seems like a warning shot. I'm with the 60%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say that, in my honest opinion, I think this was some sort of a warning shot, because everybody on our side uses precision-guided weaponry, so the fact that this landed near to the power plant was probably a deliberate action. Now, who would have done this? I mean, you know, I find it funny, folks. Some people are in the chat right now saying, "Oh, Enforcer, you're so just wrong saying it could even be Israel. Israel is very wise, and they think really hard about what they do." Right after they hit the Pars gas field today, and then the Iranians slammed everybody in the Middle East. Yeah, real big planners there. You know, they really are thinking with their heads over there in Israel right now. So I would say, considering this happened literally right before the Pars field attack, and the Israelis did that, and we didn't. And generally, we don't do stupid stuff like this because here in the United States, our commanders generally have a really decent understanding. I think the president would even have a decent understanding if we don't touch nuclear reactors. On the other hand, Israel would definitely be the one to do that. Because if, like, I just want to make this clear again. If they just hit the Pars field today, which we had asked them not to do anything like that a week ago, and they didn't give a damn and they did it anyways, why in the world would we think that the U.S. would do that today and not Israel? I mean, like, really, I mean, if we're going to put the blame on anyone here, why the hell would we do that? That would make no sense for the United States to fire a warning shot like this, because the United States would be engaging in nuclear terrorism, which is something that the United States does not do.
I don't think, I'll be honest with you, this doesn't seem like Israel's style. I'll be honest with you. Israel usually takes action. Like, that's what we saw today when they hit the Pars site. They took direct action and they actually did the job. I've never really seen Israel take warning shots. That doesn't seem to be Israel's mode of operation for the most part. When Israel does something, they just go for it. That's the thing they typically do. So, you know, in my opinion, in my assessment, I'm not totally convinced it was Israel, personally. I'm kind of 50-50 on it.
I'd say it's more likely Israel. Like, because, like, this sort of a thing you wouldn't just act on and hit it. Like, you know, that would be catastrophic to do, and that would probably lead to who knows what kind of fallout, not only in realistic terms, but in the international sense that would lead to for the Israelis. So that might have been a warning shot by them, because we also have to remember, folks, out of all of the strikes that had been conducted, who killed Ali Khamenei? It actually wasn't us. It was the Israelis that did that, from what we know. From what we've been told now. Apparently that was an Israeli strike. So the Israelis are the ones who take the most daring actions out of everybody, generally, right now. Between the two of us, the Israelis are the ones who are doing it. So they hit the Pars field today. Very risky action. Very bad payoff. They also hit the oil facilities around Tehran. Very risky and an incredibly bad payoff there as well. This action here today, incredibly risky, and if they actually hit the reactor, very bad payoff as well. So if we're going off of the just simple metric of a very risky action that has a very bad payoff, it seems to me like they probably would have been the ones to conduct this attack today. And if that is the case, I cannot say it again. Incredibly strong warnings would have to be issued that if any such attack like that happens again, the United States will have to take action against the Israelis in some form, not militarily, but obviously removing some sort of support that we provide them or something like that. If they do something like that, because it could start screwing over everybody in the Persian Gulf, and a lot of those people are our allies, and we generally don't want that. That would be a bad outcome. But with that, it is time for us to move on out of this bit of news today, down near the area of the Bushehr nuclear power plant, as we also saw that further northeast in Shiraz, there were significant strikes being conducted by the United States, from what we understand, on military facilities and IRGC outposts around the city. Allies, and we generally don't want that. That would be a bad outcome.
Also, by the way, I don't mean to interrupt here on the footage, but we have a little piece of disturbing news that's just come out right now. So I'm currently seeing reports that drones have been detected over a U.S. military base right now, apparently in Washington. I'm trying to read this real quick and get a scan on it. So here's the report. It says U.S. officials detected unidentified drones above the Washington Army base, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth apparently live. Apparently, they live on the base, based on the report. And the officials have not determined where these drones have come from. So that is a bit disturbing there, to say the least. They try to track the drones, but they don't know where they went or where they came from or anything. So they're hovering over the base where some of our top officials apparently live, which is concerning. We don't have a description of the drones, by the way. They didn't say if they were quadcopters or they were like larger size drones. Nobody is really telling that information right now. So I'm trying to get some more information on that. The information is very scarce on this. This appears to be a initial report that we're hearing. So that is disturbing. Enforcer, what can you tell us? What fort is this? Do you know?
This would be Fort McNair, or Fort Leslie J. McNair, which is here in the southern part of Washington, D.C. It's actually kind of like it's like kind of like central south is the best way to explain it. It's just south of Navy Yard, and if you're looking at the Capitol building, it's basically a straight shot south on the South Capitol Street road to the Fort Leslie J. McNair area. But that seems to be where the drones were most likely identified to be operating within the area. I'll be entirely honest with y'all, folks. I don't know a lot about Fort McNair to be able to give y'all a great deal of detail on it. I know that the Navy Yard nearby, the Washington Navy Yard, is a fairly significant deal for the Navy, but I wouldn't know about the Army's base here, which is Fort Leslie McNair.
Also, by the way, I see some people saying Truth Social post. Let me go check that real quick and see if there was a statement issued about this, because this is obviously a pretty big story coming out right here. And also, by the way, this isn't the first time we've heard of drones flying over U.S. airspace that have been unidentified. We never got a really convincing answer about the drones that were spotted over New Jersey last year. They claimed that they were U.S. drones, but we don't really know for a fact. So I'm not seeing an exact statement from the president on Truth Social. So sadly, we don't have anything to address directly about that. He looks like he's addressing other stuff instead. So that's all the information we have for now, but we'll be keeping a sharp eye on that one.
If I had to take a guess where in the world this is, there's actually these rows of fairly nice houses right here, which y'all can see, that line this grassy courtyard right here that may be used for top staff that are in this area, and that might also be where the Secretary of Defense and also the Secretary of State are currently at the moment in one of these buildings. I wouldn't know. Once again, I'm taking pot shots at this because I don't really know a lot about Fort McNair, to be entirely honest with you all, but that's where I'm guessing the drones may have been seen. So I guess they flew over the Washington Channel or the Anacostia River to get to this area and then flew around for a little while and then left. But I mean, that is rather interesting, a little bit odd.
And also, it's disturbing as well because earlier today in Tampa, Florida, there was a security situation at a military base there as well. The authorities said they detected a package with quote unquote energetic materials in it, which is basically government speak for a possible explosive of some sort. It's interesting, though, that the 2026 main security threat, even on the front lines and on the home front, like, for example, on the homeland here in the United States, it's drones. Drones are by far the biggest threat that we face from a military perspective, by far, of any type of threat. It's really crazy how drones have become such a major threat like that. It's wild.
Man, remember back in the day when drones were just, just a little hobby thing? Everyone was like, oh, cool, look at these guys fly these drones around all crazy, through these obstacle courses. Everyone was like, that's kind of neat, and it was just that, or it was something like, oh, it's a Reaper. It flies at like 40,000 feet and drops a couple of Hellfires somewhere. Nowadays, they've taken on like the form of what you would see in almost like Call of Duty advanced warfare, with the drone swarms and the autonomously controlled weapon systems. I mean, it's honestly something quite concerning, really.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to deal with it. Honestly, folks, like I personally own a drone myself, and I like to fly them like occasionally, just like recreationally myself. But I think under the circumstances, as much as I hate to say this isn't going to sound very democratic, but unfortunately, in this scenario, it might be imperative to consider possibly a temporary drone ban in U.S. airspace under these current circumstances. I know it's going to disappoint some people, but I think they should seriously consider that, because right now there's no way to really determine if drones are a threat or not. If you did the temporary drone suspension where you couldn't fly them, that would make it a lot easier to detect these enemy drones, because if you're flying one, most likely it's an enemy flying it. So it would be a lot easier to detect that. But I know that's going to get a lot of flack on me in the comments. I know it's going to get a lot of flack. Understandably so. I don't like it, but at the same time, though, it might be necessary to consider that.
It might be necessary to maybe just consider larger no-fly zone areas, like over urban areas and such, where you can only fly them in rural areas away from military facilities or any critical infrastructure or urban areas. That might be the best move, is kind of balancing the two, so that way if there is a drone over an urban area, then you can automatically assume it's some sort of a nefarious drone up to questionable activities.
Yeah, maybe so. And also, by the way, I want to reiterate this one more time. I don't like the idea of a drone ban. And of course, it would have to be temporary, like very clearly temporary. But you'll have to understand that I get the fact that, we love to have, like, for example, our freedoms to fly drones and stuff like that. But if we have threats like this popping up and we don't have a proper defense to it, and unfortunately, we are largely defenseless when it comes to drones. At some point, people have to say, okay, we'll temporarily accept like a temporary suspension of a certain right like that to, keep our skies safe, because this could turn very ugly if sleeper cells or something like that start showing up and start doing this on a large basis. This could turn ugly very quickly. This is a major threat with very little defenses to it. So, sometimes things like that are necessary, and it might be around the time.
Yeah, it might be. I think that we need to try and make that as little impactful as possible. Try and balance it out to where it's not just an absolute blanket ban. Maybe something more so in the middle. But I would say that something along those lines definitely needs to be considered, because this is becoming a national security risk at this point, because any drone at this point could be carrying a bomb or who knows what. But anyways, moving on from that and out of that bit of news around the Washington area that we were just able to hear about, moving us on up towards the area of Bandar Anzali. We were able to see the Israelis did conduct a significant strike today on the Iranian Navy in this area, and we understand that 5 ships were destroyed in the strikes. Very small video, but still showing us the fires at the port of Bandar Anzali. Moving us on down and into the area of the Islamic Republic of Iran's capital, we did get to hear that today the ODNI's annual threat assessment confirms that Pakistan is developing missiles to strike the U.S. with nuclear weapons, i.e. ICBMs. And this is the first time, according to what we know in this administration, that's been stated. It was stated in the prior administration in 2024, but fairly interesting to see. Generally, at the moment, the Pakistanis, have IRBMs, which can generally target everybody within Asia, but it currently looks like they're working on ICBMs to try and be able to directly target anybody in the world, including the United States. Generally, we can't do anything about that. Pakistan's already a nuclear power, so there's not really a lot we can do, but that is rather concerning to hear, and I don't really know what their intentions would be in developing a system such as that. But moving on from that and on into the rest of the news within Tehran, we were able to see some significant strikes within Tehran over the course of the day once more, which appeared to be hitting significant government targets. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention, Compton is coming to a neighborhood in Tehran. We were able to see that somebody actually did a drive-by today on a besieged checkpoint within Tehran. I've never seen this before. This is the first time this was ever documented, but here's the clip. We see them driving by the besieged checkpoint.
Holy! Oh my god! That's crazy, man. They literally spun the block. That's the first time I've seen that. That's the first. Where the hell did they get the AK from?
Man, they slay from with that AK from far away, man. Like, man, shoot, man. Like,
damn.
Man,
Literally rolled the window down like a gang drive-by. That's crazy.
Man, you know what's crazy, man, is that the next thing you know, they're going to be calling this Chiran, the way they'd be going off like Obalak. I mean, this be like, damn. Like, I'm not going to lie, folks. I've never seen anybody conduct an attack on a besieged checkpoint by spinning the block and whipping the Glock. You know what I mean? Like, this is the first time I've ever seen something like that. So I guess, folks, we got drive-bys in Tehran before we got GTA 6. Like, we're really evolving out here.
Also, they literally just like they weren't even going that fast. They literally just like crept by like in the car. Like they were not in any hurry. Like they were creeping past, man. Like they were a menace.
Honestly, man, bro, after they left the scene, that little sound was played, like, you know, like mission pass plus respect. Bro, like they got that and they went back to the hideout and they got their next mission from the game. But
for your support. For example, Mustafa Ozer gave 10 people memberships. Hey, make sure you thank Mustafa if you got a membership from Mustafa or somebody else, or you got a gift subscription for somebody. Make sure you thank them. That's really nice of you, Mustafa. Thank you. Also, thanks E1991M, who says, I don't like how vulnerable the U.S. and our allies have been. Sounds like we don't expect targets like oil fields to be attacked. They are critical infrastructure, but have zero defenses. Now, I don't know what defenses all these different energy sites have, but we're seeing a number of them get attacked, certainly. Thank you, E1991M. And also, Peggy SoCal, thanks for being a member. And thanks to all of our Twitch supporters as well. Anonymous Gifter over there. Thank you. Oh, also, Gamoff 5 on Twitch. Big thanks. Saselchi. I forgot to thank Saselchi over there. Thanks for subscribing. You know what? I got behind thanking people on Twitch again because I never thanked Dusky 10 FPS. Ugh. Sorry, Dusky. And Kepulikepi, I owe thanks to. And thanks to Lisa Messer for the gift memberships. Hey, make sure you thank Lisa if you got a membership from Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. For those on X, I'd recommend following us on X because I also post there before we go live. You get a heads up there when we're going live. I post updates about the channel there at Agenda Free TV on X. Oopsie. And what else did I want to mention? Our Discord chat. You can chat with other viewers for free in our Discord chat when we're not on the air. A bunch of our viewers like doing that. It's the same link as the free notifications link. You can check out the chat there. Thanks to our Discord moderators who help out with our Discord chat. Thank you. And if you are on YouTube, I would suggest turning on our YouTube notifications. That can help you find out when we're live. If you want to turn those on, what you need to do is subscribe to the channel and then click the bell and choose all notifications. If you're already a subscriber, well, click the bell and choose all notifications. Thank you, Sobek. I will be checking my messages. Thank you so much, Sobek. I appreciate it. Much appreciated, Sobek. Let's see here. Shout out to our Facebook subscribers. Tilina Wood, Chris Sear, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Robert Rial II, Sharon Klassen Goslin, Kristen McConnell Gates, and all of our others. Thank you.
Very serious charges in a criminal court.
But
I'm going
Joshua,
to say something, Anna, that
Randall
argument
Wilson Turner is
insufficiently compelling for me.
Thank you.
I think Netanyahu is doing something
all of our other
broader,
Facebook
and I think it is
subscribers,
something
huge
that
thanks.
there
Our
is a
Twitch
broad
subscribers,
Zionist establishment, at least,
flawless.
consensus around in Israel. He has the
Gam,
support
Gam
of the
off
opposition
5.
parties. It may be smart politics, but it is part of a strategy that the Israeli side now has, which
Wall
goes
Street in
way
chat,
beyond
strong one.
the
Ballistic. Annie
the
Kush,
ambition
Gina
of the party.
Pina, Chi-Town Bear, Bogan, 04, 2 Bretsky, Munchie 2K,
Will have to be
Douthis,
walked
Los
back from,
Gatos de
or
Wilson,
the region, and I
Shave
know
Ezra,
the region is
Tatsiki,
dealing with
My Mind Spread,
what is going on with Iran and Iran's response right now.
Devil Dog.
But I think there is a very serious attempt here to assert hard power
Thanks for
hegemony
subscribing.
by Israel,
Sandy
regional
Doggo,
domination
Constant
that needs to be
Juicer,
contained
Gina
and deterred
Pina,
and goes
Bill
well
Kwan.
beyond the
Bill says
person of
oil to
Netanyahu.
200.
Look at the leader of the opposition,
Gretzky,
Naftali
did I
Bennett,
say?
who's saying, after this
Thanks to
war,
all of
the
our
next
Twitch
war is
subscribers.
Turkey.
The Keen Bean, thanks
All
for
right,
subscribing.
Daniel, I'm very sorry we have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
your
Jack's
insight
Animals.
and joining us on the program. The US media has picked up on the role America's relationship with Israel has on taking on Iran, with many questioning just who is benefiting from entering into the conflict. Phil's back in the newsroom with how it's all playing out.
Yeah, that is one of the questions that is getting a lot of attention in the US media. Which country predominantly benefits most from this conflict? Is it Israel? Is it America? Is it a combination of the two? Now, we're just going to rewind slightly to Tuesday because you'll remember the resignation of that top US intelligence official, Joe Kent. Donald Trump had talked about an imminent threat. This is the headline on the Associated Press. Top counterterrorism official Kent resigns over Trump's Iran war, says Iran posed no imminent threat. Now, this is why it's significant, because if you read his resignation letter, which AP's quoting, Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Next up, it is the conservative podcaster and influencer Megyn Kelly. She's asking, who is really in control here? Is it America? Is it Israel? I'll give you a hint. In her eyes, at least, it's not America.
So what does Israel do? Like, it's already been reported that Trump understands this decision has to be made in tandem with them, even though this is a country of 9 million and we have 350 million and we have our own concerns here. Apparently we're treating ourselves as equal partners in this thing as opposed to the senior partner.
Next up, it is the Wall Street Journal, and this leads into the perceived differences between Netanyahu and Trump. It says Israel and the US have different ideas on when to end the conflict and under what conditions. And it says the two men have spoken almost every day, adding all those talks center on the current state of the war and how to end it, the official said.